In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, welcome to another session of lessons from my mother. I don't know why my visual isn't opening up. I don't know if this is live or not. Should be. I should be seeing an eye symbol somewhere. I think I'll have to check this because if I didn't see it, then there's no broadcasting. It is being broadcasted. Yes, that's true. Why don't I see it though? Oh, here we are. Restream. You're slowing down. Come on. Welcome to another session of lessons from my mother. We are on lesson 53, inching towards that one final goal of maybe reaching 100. I have to interview a few more friends of mine, certainly. Today's lesson is one that I've always struggled with. I'll tell you exactly why, but first let me tell you the lesson, and first let me tell you where this quotation comes from. This comes from one of my favorite movie actors across the world, across time, the late, great Heath Ledger. In his 2005 movie Casanova, he says to, I forget the name, the younger brother of the lady that he's pursuing, don't be miserable. Misery isn't becoming, and be the flame, not the moth. That's how Heath Ledger says it. And he's trying to explain that, look, if you like a lady and you're pursuing her and you're going after her and trying to get her flowers, that's not really the best course of action. Try to see what you can accumulate to attract the other person, like the fire attracts the moth. However, I don't think Casanova or Heath was indicating that you have to accumulate wealth or power or material gains, even though for most of us, that's a huge positive. People always flock to somebody, wow, nice car, nice watch, nice suit, nice this. If you possess certain resources, you attract members of the opposite sex or even members of the same sex who say, wow, look at his car or her car, and so forth. And this is common knowledge in most of the discourse, and it's becoming more popular with the gendered division of online content, with regards to what is appealing to whom and what isn't, and so forth. So I don't think he meant only that oh, wear a nice suit, okay, attract somebody with nice clothes, comb your hair once in a while, cool, shave or look clean, work out, all great. Buy a lovely car, or in Casanova's time, a lovely horse carriage, or so and so forth. I think that was one indication, but the other indication was, what qualities do you possess which would be appealing to the other person? Are you funny? Are you well spoken? Are you intelligent? Are you empathetic? Can you speak publicly persuasively? Can you discuss on a wide variety of topics? Can you understand music, art, poetry, literature? Can you talk about religion? Can you talk about suffering? Can you talk about so many things? I think he meant it in both those cases. So today we call that personal development. I'm a serial networker. I don't like the term networker, but my friends call me that, so I've stopped fighting it. Whenever there's a conference or a gala or a debate or any sort of a gathering or a dinner, you do what you're there to do, and then you stand up and say, okay, investor, business partner, client, friend, blah, 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 go. And you go and you start shaking hands and you pat people on the back and say, I love your book. Do you have a card? There was a time when I would just collect people's cards. Hi, lovely to see you. Love your speech. You're a fantastic speaker. Can I have your card? And they'd know me from a mile away. Oh, he's that kind of person. Oh, okay. Some would like it because I give you undivided attention, but it's opportunistic. I want your card so that later I can reach out to you. Now, what people do is they do the LinkedIn, what is it? The barcode. Oh, do you have LinkedIn? Yes. Scan it. and you scan it, like, now you're my friend on LinkedIn, and I'm going to bombard you with emails about, hey, Ali, I've noticed that as founder of eLachine, you've been doing it. It's common. So I'm that guy. Um, More often than not, because I'm the youngest in the room, or I am entering a space which is not really my space. I've only been one of the senior members um, in a gathering in Turkey, I think before the coup happened. I was the senior member, so I would stand and people would come to me and I just hold court, as they say, and they'd try to tell stories, but they came to speak to me because I was the instructor or the coach or the advisor. So there were Ali's over there, and then six of them would come, and watching the six more would come and they'd stand around me or with me, and we'd have a conversation. Other than that, all I remember is typically being the youngest in the room or the head of a certain organization or a student society or whatever. Then I don't run off to people because I'm holding court. I have the power. But as a child, you don't have any of that. A 5-year-old at school in grade 5-year-old, 6-year-old would be in grade 1, and they're in grade 1 and they really want to play, but they're shy. Maybe they're the oldest at home. Maybe they're younger and the older siblings kind of pummel on them or have scared them or whatever. It could be anything. Or they're just shy by nature, or they're introverted by nature, but they really want to play. If they start going up to people and say, will you be my friend? Will you play with me? This tells you something very interesting about human psychology, especially cognitive psychology. If as a child you start going up to people and say, will you be my friend and let me play? Many times the other children are not interested. They're like, why is... If, on the other hand, 3 people are playing with a ball, 3 children are playing with a ball, and one of them throws it in a manner, and you grab it and you throw it back to them properly or in the manner of the game, they would offer, would you like to play? Or they'd throw it to you again. Or you could throw it and just jump up. And I've noticed this even as we grow older. Because I say this from experience, firstly. But I've also noticed this when I grew older. In college, I was big into basketball. I still love basketball, one of the greatest games in the world. Now, remember, we'd have a lot of exchange students from China that come over to England. And sometimes I would bring my own basketball and just play with it. Sometimes I would play with others. No jokes. Play with others' balls. No jokes over there. So I see that 2 of us or 3 of us would be playing, and some guy would just come and throw his bag on the side, and then they just come, and as soon as the ball would go, they'd grab it and they'd shoot it, a 3-pointer. And if it goes in, we're like, hey, good shot. And then we'd give it to him again. Or her. Well, it was mostly guys. Sometimes we had a few ladies. So, and that person would then say, hey, you want to play 2 on 2? Cool. Let's play 2 on 2, 3 on 3, and so forth. Half court, full court. And we do all of that without even knowing the person's name. We'd know their name after the game finished. And their teammate might know their name. If it's a 2 on 2, then you don't even need to know their name because they'll pass to you. Otherwise, they'll say, what's your name? Oh, John, oh, Jack, whatever. Otherwise, we didn't even know the name. After we play a rigorous 1 hour, half-hour game of half court, we'd shake hands and be like, yeah. What's your name? Oh, Jack. My name's Ali. It was that. Why were they valued? Because they added value. They came into the domain and then they added value to us by making a good shot. Oh, here's a good player. He can add value to our game. Let's bring him in. That is the exact meaning of what we're discussing here. So, and everyone intrinsically has some value. It's just that a 5-year-old doesn't know that. The 5-year-old doesn't really know what their value is, what their skills are, what they're good at, what they aren't. That's why we negotiate with the friends group. That's why when it's a group, we understand, oh, that person's bigger, they can punch me, that person's smaller, I can punch them, that person's my same size. We can race, we can fight, we can play, we can build, and so forth. We negotiate with everyone. So how would they know that you have any value if you don't show it, right? But at the same time, if you don't know you have any value, you won't even show it to them. So my mum indicating this because she'd say something along the lines of because I remember being it has always been easy for me to make friends, but perhaps sometimes it wasn't. Because I'd watch people playing and I'd be the new kid in school and nobody's playing with me. Should I just start running with them? And then you go into a corner and you become shy or you become afraid. And my mum said, look, what do you have to offer? What do you do? Otherwise, why would they include you in the game? Try to see it from this perspective. She didn't explain it in these words. What she used to say was, don't go running around making friends. Be the smartest in the room, be the best at the game, be this, be that, and they'll invite you themselves. So, what that did was it cultivated a mentality which made me feel, oh, if I enter a room and nobody looks at me or says hi, cool. I know I'm great. I know I'm wonderful. I'm just waiting for you to have the opportunity to speak to me and for me to enlighten your life. I'm being facetious for a reason, but it was more in this direction rather than, oh, I'm entering a room. I don't know what happens if they don't like me. What happens if somebody laughs at me? Oh, I'm going to sink. That's more of a common feeling today and forever. So my mum short circuited that tendency, which most children have. And she said, look, you go into the room and try to focus on what you have. If somebody has a bigger cricket bat or a racket or a ball, you don't have it. So you can't really say, well, I don't have a ball, so I'm not going to play. Can you catch? Can you run? Can you jump? What can you really do if you want to play with them? The same goes to the classroom. It is a common practice from grade 1 to PhD, civil service, medical school, law school, as high as it goes, or even in the corporate world. If you give a task, you say, divide yourself into groups of 3 or 5 or something, and then we'll do this. And many times people feel left out. Many times people say, run around, hey, do you want to be in my group? And sometimes people say yes, sometimes people say no. When the other person says no, that's a huge, huge attack on your ego, on your self-respect. It hurts you. I'm not saying that's not necessary. It's useful for growth, but it really hurts you. So instead, try to understand, oh, they're going to make a group. I know this is going to be part of the work culture. What can I bring to it? Can I code? Can I make presentations? Am I a good speaker? Am I a good team player? Can I listen to 5 points of view and then summarize them really well? What can I do with this? And if you can't think of one thing or anything, perhaps you should work on yourself. Perhaps you're a spark and not a flame yet. Perhaps you should spark it, fan the flame, and then when you become it, people will say, Ali, you're a fantastic speaker. Would you like to be part of our group? I say this from experience. It has happened multiple times in multiple countries where it has been like, I don't know how to code yet. Or I know a bit how to code, but I don't know how to code as well as many other people, especially the data scientists. They're marvelous with it. But I always end up being part of their groups because I say, okay, I'll do the structure of the presentation. I'll do this, I'll do that. And I'm happy to speak about it. I'm happy to open because many people are, oh, I don't want to speak. I was like, fine, I'll speak. Because that's the value I bring to you. You can give me a presentation, I can read through it, and I can present it convincingly and engage the whole room with it or the whole stadium with it. And I can present it. And I can speak about it. And if they ask me questions, I can give answers for it. In architecture school, 7 years of architecture school, I was this guy. I'm not the best drawer. Everybody is a good space planner. I would be the person debating with the team and say, is this the right decision or not? If I need to convince, blah, blah, blah. Others would be drawing because they would be better at drawing or at computer modeling. And then when it would be time for the jury where we present our building or park or whatever to the committee, I'd be the one speaking and I'd say, Marhaba hoja, hojamlar or hojalarum. I can't remember what he used to say. Marhaba, today we're going to be talking about this. We did this. This is the team. And then I'd start. And I'd sink into the the thing and it starts selling, 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 and then it's done. So that is the value you bring. Why is this lesson important? Because it builds a great deal of self-esteem. And it tells you that you on your own are enough. If there is something you want, rather than looking for it out there, look for it in here, in all of this. Find it here, whether it's overcoming fear, whether it's charisma, whether it's a persuasive voice, whether it's humor, intelligence. Look for it here. Can you develop it here? So, for example, let's say you are interested in poetry, but you read nothing of it. You know the names of no poets. You don't know anything about their life history. You can't recite anything. You can't understand anything. And you go to a poetry convention or you go in a group of people where they're interested in poetry. Why would they listen to you? You can certainly be the loudest or the dumbest and the most aggressive, but that doesn't hold court for the longest. Instead, if you memorize or absorb, my mum said "god ke pee lena," which means mix it in water and just drink it to the core. All of Shakespeare, or Yeats, or Tennyson, or Iqbal, or Kabir, or Rumi. Just memorize one poet. And you go to a convention or a gathering where some people are interested in poetry, and you hear something, and you say, "Do you know what? Iqbal has something interesting to say about that too." And you start reciting, and they're like, "Oh, you like poetry? Oh, yes, yeah, I do. Oh, we were just talking about it. Come on in." Just like that. Just like that. And as a networker, I need to be more mindful of this because I'm a new entrepreneur. Lasheen is 2.5, 3 years old. It's not even that old. Like the actual Lasheen is less than 2 years old. And I go to these, what are they? Expos and conventions and gatherings and group meetings where entrepreneurs are meeting. And I know nothing about tech. I'm only learning in the last couple of months. And I just have a small firm, and I know that we have this product and we have this clientele that we've catered to. But compared to all the others, I know nothing. So I go up to people and I shake hands and I'm like, "Hey, so what do you do?" Blah, blah, blah. And that has worked me in good stead a lot because I've met a lot of prime ministers, Nobel laureates, TV personalities, and I just go up to them and I'm like, "Hi, Ali Pasha, what's your name?" And I always do the two-handed shake and I have a conversation. If I want their number or the card, I always take it, or I stand with them and chat with them for a bit. So what my mum has trained me in terms of self-esteem has proven useful even when I'm networking. But I certainly plan to gradually build this, I think in the next couple of years, to build this personality or build this footing where I'm the flame and not the moth. I'm not running up to people. So I'm standing and somebody would come up to me and say, "So what do you do?" "Well, I do this, this, and this." "What do you do?" And they'd come to me. And it happens in some occasions, certainly, where, especially when people know who you are, they'd come to you. You don't have to run to them. But it happens more and more when you start building your brand and you start having a point of view on something. And I used to look at these politicians, where one politician would be surrounded by 5 to 6 people, 5 to 7, and they'd be standing and just listening, and she'd be saying something. And I've noticed the same with professors. I've noticed the same with industry leaders or people who've done some sort of coaching. And I've noticed, how's that happening? Why is that happening? So you're adding value to something and people would come to you rather than you running, "Hey, do you want to talk to me? Do you want to?" No, it doesn't work. So if you're going to work on something, certainly work on networking. Certainly, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to work on something, work on yourself. Work on one thing. Start with one thing. What is it that you can talk about for 1 hour? Let's start with 1 minute, then 2, then 5, then 10, then 20, then 30, then an hour. Build it up. What is it that you can talk about for this long? I can talk about politics, I can talk about religion, I can talk about astrology, I can talk about architecture, I can talk about foreign policy, I can talk about tennis, I can talk about movies. These are my topics of interest. And I can talk maybe a bit about the education industry, Oxford, Harvard, and so forth. I can talk about these things. Is there anything else I can talk about? Maybe a few books, but not nearly as many as much as other people can. That's it. Wherever I am, that's what I'll be talking about. I can't talk about gender. I can't talk about, I don't know enough. I have points of view, but I don't know all the literature or all the perspectives. I just have an opinion. Can't talk about climate change as a well-informed person on climate change. Can't talk about business or finance or accounting or economic trends. I have opinions. I have some grounding. But I can't talk about it at an expert level. But I can talk about those 7 or 8 other topics that I've mentioned. That should be enough. For you, one topic is enough. Pick one and say, do you know what? If you're 5, if you're 10, if you're shy, I'm going to talk about cats. I'm going to talk about dogs. I'm going to talk about working out or running or training or cricket or clothes or whatever. You pick that one thing and you spend a month or so on it. And you say, okay, I've read Glamour magazine or Vanity Fair or Esquire or all these other fashion magazines. I don't know all the names. I've read all of them. I know all of them. I know Oscar de la Renta and Tommy Hilfiger and Coco Chanel. Who you ask? I know all of them and I can talk about them. So wherever you are, you look at some people and firstly you'll be well dressed because you're into fashion, and you look at somebody and say, that's a Chanel bag or that's a Tommy Hilfiger watch or whatever. I say, yes, it is. Done. You added value in terms of information. You're in. Rather than saying, how do I become friends with this person? Will they like me or not? They don't have to like you. You've added value. It's already done. You see what I mean? So it's a very important lesson. I think the more Lachine develops, the more my academic career develops, the more books I write, hopefully. I'll start slowing down on the networking and let them come to me. It's a harder lesson for someone like me because I'm just, I wouldn't say hyperactive, but very close to that. And I move around the room and I'm moving and bringing people, and all that energy, you can see it manifest there, or on a construction site, or when managing a large group of people. But the flame is always where you need to be going. So 23 minutes, I'm going to stop here, but very important lesson. Thank you, Mama. Love you to bits. I'll see you all again next week.